Crisis at one point used to be so OP, people begged the Tanki developers to change it and nerf it to the floor, but now that you see the current Tanki meta or well, the way it's heading, I don't see anyone using Crisis in the current moment. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over why Crisis fell off and what were the reasons why nobody plays with Crisis anymore. Now, if you do enjoy these sort of videos and you want me to continue making these videos, do consider subscribing because that kind of motivates me to continue making videos like this in the future. So anyways, back to the video. So Crisis was released on June 4th, 2020, and it was initially introduced in Ultra Containers during Tanki Online's birthday event. It soon solidified it for being the top 3 drones in the game, and it was a must-have for most pay-to-win players to use in most matchmaking battles. But this drone came with some unique ability which no other drone had at its time. And that was the ability to only use one supply at a time, but that status effect was far more amplified than any other drone in the game. Armor boost was at 100% and double damage was also amplified to at least 25 to 30%. The speed was also pretty amplified from around 80 to 70%, but that came with a lot of haters. A lot of people called this drone pretty unskilled, and it slowly became one of those annoying sweaty drones that most meta players abused. Now, around October 7, 2021, Crisis got its first buff where its damage boost increased from 50% to 60%, but the boosted armor bonus decreased from 100% to a 90% damage boost. And then a year or two later, it had a supply cooldown nerf, which drastically changed the way the drone worked. Now, you weren't able to spam your supplies 1 and 2, and you had to mostly focus on making sure that you survived long enough for you to change that supply. The meta in 2023 changed from a supply-based meta to a heavy DPS meta, and that didn't exactly help Crisis all too much. Not long after that, everything was made so that all the damage boost or the speed or the armor that you got were the exact same as the Defender booster and Trickster boost that they were giving to your drone. Now, the only problem is that those 3 other drones also gave you double damage and double speed or double armor compared to, well, Crisis only being able to activate 1 supply at a time with a cooldown. Now the question is, why did Crisis really fall off? Well, that's because meta shifts in Tanki Online. Before, Booster used to be considered the worst drone value-wise compared to Defender and Trickster because Trickster had far more speed and it was a lot more decent with the current Tanki meta combos of that time, and Defender was just overall a very good powerhouse with that 80% boosted armor. A few patch later, Booster got a small little buff to its damage increase or the damage amplification that it gave with its boosted damage, and that instantly pushed it up all the way to the top and is now considered one of the best drones to be using with Hammer or any other high DPS turrets in the game. And that's where Crisis falls off, because there's far too many disadvantages with Crisis compared to any other drone in the game. But the question arises, is it still worth it and spending the crystals to upgrade it in 2025? Well, that question is quite not exactly the most simple one to answer, because if you're a camper, Crisis might be the best drone for you, but if you're someone that likes getting real close to the enemy, if you're a Firebird or Freeze main, that drone might not be exactly the best one because you can only use 1 supply at a time. Let's say for an example, you're using double damage and you have 3 people on you. Now, if you were using Defender, you might have a chance against them, assuming that you're using Defender, but with Crisis, there's no way you're winning a 3-on-1 with Crisis unless you get extremely lucky or you're extremely skilled. The current recent high ping to most people's computers isn't helping either. If people have a bad internet connection, Crisis could be one of the worst drones to be using, especially if you have a pretty useless team. There are also some times where Brutus might actually outshine Crisis in a 1v1 depending on what turret and what combo you're using. And that kind of basically wraps up this video. If you disagree with what I'm saying, you're more than welcome to express those in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys all in another one. Peace.